are joined now by disability lecturer Dr Erin Pritchard and former performer, or performer still, Choon Tan. Good morning to you both. You're still performing, aren't you, Choon?
Yes, absolutely.
OK, lovely. Erin, I just got to start with yourself, because you had a lot of input in this film. You've actually helped direct these magical creatures, and did you help develop them?
Not so much the magical creatures, but the script development and other things within the film, which is kind of difficult to talk about because it's only been released today, so I'm not sure when I can say everything. But I was told when I was asked back in 2021 that they were going to be CGI, these CGI magical creatures, and I thought, well, yeah, because they're not people with dwarfism. They are Norse mythology dwarfs, like leprechauns and stuff, which are not, you know, which is something that most people with dwarfism distance themselves from. And so I felt, right, because they've not got actors with dwarfism, that doesn't mean you can't have an actor with dwarfism doing something else in a film. Because if you just reduce them to that, what are you giving them, basically?
I guess what I was a bit confused about was looking at the trailer there. It looks pretty much like it's CGI dwarfs. So if it's CGI dwarfs, then why didn't they just use actors who were dwarfism? Well,
there's two reasons with that. One, they're more like, say, these, you know, different, like, gnome types sort of things. And secondly, most people with dwarfism who are professional actors who have a background in, you know, performing arts, like Danny Wood graduated from Temple University, Kieran Stamell has a background in performing arts, they won't touch this with a barge pole because they know the implications it has for the rest of us.
What is the implications of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? What is the problem with this actual story? Because it seems like it's all right for dwarfs to play dwarf characters in some films, but not in others. So what is the issue with this film?
Well, when you look, when Walt Disney created it in 1937, obviously it was based on Grimm's fairy tale, but he based the depiction of the dwarfs on freak show representations. Now, you know, the freak shows, we left them in the past because the ethical implications of seeing a disabled person as something you can stare at, a novelty, laugh at, and inferior. So now, like, you know, as my research shows, when people with dwarfism, such as myself and any other person with dwarfism, they get asked, who's happy? Are you happy? Where's Snow White? Oh, she's grumpy. It'll be on social media. Oh, look, she's grumpy. You know, where's your 6 little friends? And start singing hi-ho at you. So there was a lawyer in Germany, and she went up to cross-examine a witness. He burst out laughing at her and started singing hi-ho in a court of law.
But
she was the lawyer, but the witness burst out laughing
But I guess you could argue that this is an opportunity, given the world we live in now, to reframe that narrative using actors with dwarfism. Can we bring Choon in? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from my experience, I've done Pantomime, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I think people can differentiate, you know, from a movie to real life. And I think people that are going to make fun of you, they, you know, look for a way to do it. I personally go out and people are like, oh, isn't it past your bedtime? You know, where's your mum at? They'll ask in, you know, questions like, is it all in proportion? So just, I think they'll pick at anything, and I think those types of people. But people with common awareness, they will, you know, show respect.
Choon, what would getting a role like this do for you?
It would be massive. You know, a lot of people, a lot of famous actors now have used these as stepping stones, these kind of roles. They've done Pantomime, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and we've always felt respected. So now they're doing big things, a lot of my colleagues, in massive movies.
Doctor, do you think dwarf actors who choose these kind of roles have some sort of responsibility to bear?
Yeah, because if you notice, the ones that actually have made it big, like Peter Dinklage, Meredith Eaton, Kieran Stamell, Fran Mills, they've never touched this role. Because if it's like a poison chalice, if you do this, they're not going to take you seriously because they're just going to see you as this person, oh, you sneezed a couple of times, well done, you know? And yes, people should differentiate between fiction and reality, but as I've shown, they don't. And, you know, I had one woman saying to me, my daughter finds people like you hilarious. Will you dress up as Hello Kitty for her birthday party? Because that's what they see as us. So when, you know, and if you want to play that role, Disney, first of all, will want you to have a background in the performing arts, not just be like, I'm a dwarf, I deserve this role, I want to play it. They'll go, well, give us your resume. Well, hang on, you've got no background in the performing arts, and I can see you've played a goblin. No, I want a professional actor. That's what they're going to tell you. If it's someone that has trained hard, give them opportunities. It doesn't need to be Seven Dwarfs, give them opportunities. And like I said, we can't say that Disney hasn't done that. You know, we just got to wait and see.
Choon, you wanted to pick up on the Peter Dinklage point, didn't you?
Yeah, I think Peter Dinklage has done a lot of roles where his height has been utilised, and I believe he has done Snow White and Seven Dwarfs pantomime. before to, you know, to elevate his career. A lot of my colleagues as well have done that and got into... Because you get acting credits from doing such things as pantomime, which is...
Yeah, because didn't Peter get his role in Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Because they needed a dwarf in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
right? So,
yeah, and his height was made fun of in Game of Thrones. You know, there was derogatory comments made towards him throughout the series.
I guess the difference there is that the whole narrative is he is the genius in the character. He's, you know, he is this incredibly intelligent man who happens to have dwarfism.
And there's a difference between laughing at you and laughing with you, and having that, like Peter Dinklage, yes, what they showed in Game of Thrones, because like he said, no pointy shoes, no beard, so it wasn't the stereotypical dwarf. And yes, he showed the abuse that we kind of get, but also he had the comebacks. He was a rounded character, not just this thing that sneezed. And from my recollection, and I think it'd be very problematic if you say Peter Dinklage did panto, because they don't have pantos in America. They're British and sort of South American.
I guess the question is, though, who is to differentiate what part an actor with dwarfism should play and what part an actor with dwarfism shouldn't play? Like, culturally, what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable?
I think if you looked at it from would you put another minority group in a role where you go, we're just going to have them there based on that minority status?
I don't know.
And laugh at it.
Because, no, but I don't know. But are we laughing at this? Like, you worked on this film,
well,
so...
I'd like to think that with the minors, we're moving away from... And yes, I had a thing with the script, so... If you look at the Disney, the 1937, you've got Dopey acting very animalistic and we laugh at him. And of course, Dopey wasn't a dwarf. They based him more on somebody with Down syndrome. Now, I think people, if you were to say, right, we're going to have 6 actors with dwarfism and 1 with Down syndrome, people go, and you're letting him perform like that? We're laughing at someone...
But you're taking 1937...
Yeah, but it's still a Disney...
I'm talking about this film here.
Yeah, but it's still Disney, so they're still basing it on, like, having bashful, sleepy, you know, so on.
Well, I think times have progressed on, because I don't think they're being laughed at.
Panto.
I mean...
You are laughed at.
Well, let's talk about let's keep it in the film.
Everybody's quite laughed at Panto, though, isn't it?
But, like Tom Shakespeare says, when you come off Panto, the prince takes off his costume, you've laughed at the dwarfs, they don't take off the costume. They're dwarfs that you laugh at. And that's...
From my experience, that's not the case. Like, afterwards, people coming up are showing respect. You know, the kids getting pictures of us. They're like, they look at us with admiration. Just
finish up, because we want this debate to be about this film specifically, rather than Panto. But do you think whatever Disney would have decided, they'd have had problems with this?
Probably. I think, you know, because like quite a lot of people with dwarfism were saying to me, oh, no, I wish they'd just scrap it. Don't do the film. Don't just leave it in the 1937. Yeah. But I felt maybe we can progress this. Now, as you know, with like most of their remakes, there's CGI in it somehow, form or other. And like I said, it's not saying that just because these characters, these magical characters who are not people with dwarfism, are not played by actors with dwarfism, but because, like I said, professional ones that Disney would want are not touching that role. Mm. That doesn't mean that there aren't dwarf actors in other things. And of course, as the producer, he was like, right, well, I want dwarfs doing other things behind the scenes as well. Like, so there was you know, in editing, there was a dwarf when I was there doing access, like, you know, provisions around the studio. And when you make things more accessible, then you can get more disabled actors in that studio for future work as well.
It's fascinating to hear both sides, and Choon, is there anything you just want to quickly point out? Just so
absolutely. I think there's a lot of dwarf actors that do want to play this role, which is why there are protests, you know, coming up for this. And I think it's an opportunity for us. You know, it looks like an amazing movie. I would have loved to have played a part in it, and there's many other colleagues that I know that would have loved to play the part as well.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every single day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the morning.